Welcome to Teen Talk,
Welcome to Teen Talk.
presented by Prominent Youth of America.
Welcome back to Teen Talk News. I'm Kanan.
And I'm Liana.
And today we are joined by a leading voice in Louisville, Kathy Knotts, Senior Vice President and Director of Grants Management of the Gheens Foundation, of one of Kentucky's largest independent private foundations. Kathy oversees millions of dollars in grants each year, supporting public, urban education, human and social services, quality of place, and the arts across Greater Louisville, and the Louisville Free Public Library Foundation, and Better Business Bureau. Please join us in welcoming a champion for community investment and a true steward of Louisville's future, Kathy Knotts. So, for viewers meeting for the first time, who is Kathy Knotts, and what does your role as a Senior Vice President and Director of Grants Management at the Gheens Foundation actually involve day to day?
Well, who is Kathy Knotts? Those wonderful things you said about me, I probably don't deserve some of those titles. I feel like I've just been doing my job over the years, and it's led me to this spot. But I heard something a long time ago about just showing up is a big part of the job. And so that's what I've tried to do, is just show up every day. And that doesn't sound like a big deal, but I promise, one foot in front of the other, and finally you get there. So I oversee the grant process at the Gheens Foundation. Mm-hmm. And the Gheens Foundation was started in 1957 by a couple, Mr. and Mrs. Gheens, who were getting towards the end of their life, but they did not have any children, and they were trying to decide what to do with the money they had saved. And so they decided to put it into a foundation, with the purpose being that only a portion of that foundation's assets would be spent each year. Mm-hmm. And the goal is to grow the foundation so that each year would have more money to give away than it did the year before. So back in 1957, it wasn't giving away much money. But because they chose to put it in this type of foundation, it went from $22 million back then. Well, in 1982, it had $22 million in it. Today, it has $200 million. Mm. So you can see what that does when you put your money in the bank and just let it collect interest. But it's also allowed us to give away more money, because if Mr. and Mrs. Gheens had decided, well, we're just going to give it all away at one time, that would have been wonderful. It would have been fantastic for all those organizations who received part of $22 million. But because they chose to put it into a foundation the way they did, we've ended up being able to give away $165 million, even though it's been over a longer period of time. So we accept applications from nonprofit organizations in Louisville that are doing all different kinds of good work. And so I stay busy with that.
Okay. So the Gheens Foundation oversees millions of dollars in grants annually and has distributed over $165 million in charitable gifts since it began. What does it feel like to help steward that kind of impact on Louisville?
Well, it's a wonderful feeling to get up each day and meet all the wonderful people working at so many different organizations, doing a lot of different things. You have very big organizations that have been around for a long time, like the YMCA. You have a lot of small organizations that haven't been around for as long. Prominent Youth of America would be one, but they're doing very good work too. And I get to go out and learn about all those different organizations, and they can be very different, but they're all doing important work that help people.
You came to the Gheens Foundation in 2014 after a career that included Kentucky Show, Nachos, and Humana. How did that varied background prepare you for your career?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you. I think in those jobs, I had to do a lot of different things. And so because I had to do a lot of different things, that just made me more capable of fitting into a different kind of a job, because I could do a little bit of accounting. I could do some writing. I could do a little bit of social media. So having that well-rounded background was helpful because the job I was going into sort of required that. And so I think just being open to learning, sometimes something will happen in your job and you'll say to yourself, oh my gosh, I don't want to do that, or oh my gosh, I can't do that, or oh, that's going to be so hard. And I think just having the attitude that you can learn it, and a lot of times you'll just have to go out and ask someone for help. You know, it might be your office neighbor. You might just have to knock on their door and say, I don't know how to do this thing on Excel, or I don't know how to do this thing on social media. And, you know, sometimes it does require just asking for help or digging in and learning, but I think if you can be open to that, that's very useful.
So the foundation supports public urban education, human social services, quality of place in the arts. How do you decide which organizations and programs to invest in?
Well, so there are 6 people on my board that represent the community, and they get together 4 times a year. They come in for meetings at our foundation office, and they are the decision makers. So I will go out in the community and meet with a lot of different people. I will look at the applications when they come in, and I'll package that all up in a nice big bow for those 6 board members to look at so that all the information is very easy to understand. And when I get an application, there'll be a lot of times I have questions about something. I'll have to reach out and clarify information. Sometimes people send me things that don't even make sense. They'll send me budgets. I'm like, where did this come from?
Right.
And I'll have to send it back and say, this doesn't make sense. And so we work on all that so that what the trustees see is something that does make sense. So that's the first step. They will get a digital book that they'll look at that could be anywhere from 400 to 600 pages. So they're big books. And there might be anywhere from 40 to 70 applications in each of those books. And they are the ones that get to decide. Now, I'll be in the room when the discussion happens, and sometimes I can clarify something, but generally the conversation most of the time is between those 6 board members. And I am not one of the decision makers. I can give them extra information, but I'm not really part of that conversation. So it's those 6 people. But they're supposed to represent the community. So they are 6 people who are very involved, who are very knowledgeable at the companies where they work, and they're very involved in the community, and they're out there meeting a lot of people too. So these aren't typically people that are sitting at home watching TV all day. These are typically people that know what the community needs are and understand what our priorities should be.
You've met hundreds of people across Louisville doing heartfelt work in their communities. Is there a moment or a story from a grantee that has stuck with you?
Oh my gosh, there are so many, yes. If I had to pick one, it would be hard to do that. And as part of the application process, organizations can share some of those stories with me, but a lot of times when an organization gives me their follow-up report, there are very good stories in there, and there's so many stories about people who society gave up on. And I'm going to give you an example. It can be a homeless person, and society has given up on that person. And that homeless person, they might have not even been homeless until 6 weeks before, but something happened. They lost their job. Their car stopped working. There can be all sorts of things that happen to that person in 4 or 5 months that just implodes their world. Right. They're not lazy, they're not stupid. They've just had a lot of bad circumstances. And a lot of times those people don't have a family to fall back on. If you've got family to fall back on, sometimes you can move in with that person for a while until things get better and you get back on your feet. But a lot of times people who are living in their cars or living on the street have had a series of bad luck. Mm-hmm. And there's so many good stories about organizations here that work with people who are homeless. And most of those organizations don't want to just feed that person or give them a bed at night. They really want that person to thrive. And they will have programs to help that person get a job, or if that person has an alcohol dependency, they'll help that person get into a program, or they'll help that person get, it could be disability benefits. Maybe that person has a debilitating sickness, and they will help that person get on the Medicaid disability, so they get a check each month. I mean, and there are stories of that happening, and these people go on and they get an apartment, they get a job, they get back on their feet, they get their kids back. I mean, there's all kinds of stories out there that are just really just incredible.
So, for a young person who has never thought about a career or nonprofit leadership, what do you want them to know about the field?
Oh, well, that's an excellent question. It's a very fulfilling role to have, to be sitting where I am. That being said, there are not very many jobs out there like this one. There are some corporations that have foundations, and you could go work at the Humana Foundation, for example, or PNC has a foundation. All told, there aren't a whole lot of positions in Louisville where you get to sit in an office and decide who gets the money or who doesn't.
Right.
So you should know that before you decide you want to go into a career like this. That it's going to be very difficult to find. It's going to be very competitive. So I think that's one thing you need to keep in mind. Now, the other side of that is working at a nonprofit. And that's different than working where I am, because when you work at a nonprofit, you have to go out and raise money for your organization. And that's very important, too, because most organizations do very good work, and they have a heart for the work, but they need donors. They need people to help support what they're doing. So the flip side of what I do is working for a nonprofit and helping them with their mission. And I think that's a very, very in need type of employment is for that. And that's worthwhile. And that involves a lot of people skills too, going out and meeting people, explaining them what, for example, this organization, Levon goes out and meets with people and says, I want you to understand what we're doing, and will you donate to this organization? That's part of his job.
Right.
But there's a lot of people who would help. You know, at other organizations, they have 3 or 4 people. They have people who are doing the mission. They're having people who are raising the money. They're having people who do the accounting and the finances. So if you like the idea of working for a nonprofit, there's not just this side of giving away the money. There's also the side of working for an organization and helping those organizations thrive.
Is there any type of like organization that you feel like that there should be more of, or that you think that would be better for our community or help kids more?
Well, I see so many good organizations from where I sit. And actually, Metro United Way says that there are 200 organizations in Louisville that are serving youth. So I'm talking about anywhere probably from 5 years old up to 21 years old. I mean, that's a lot of organizations. I don't even know all those organizations. So I think they're out there. They're just all spread out. A lot of times you need to be in the neighborhoods where the kids are, because kids don't drive. You know, kids depend on their parents to get them there. And if their parents are working, then you're stuck in the house all day, or, you know, with your grandma. So that's why a lot of programs need to be in the neighborhoods where kids are. And so you might not know of every organization that's out there unless you're sort of, like there's one called Hip Hop into Learning, and that's in the California neighborhood. And they're doing very interesting work. Some of their kids went to Germany last year to a conference, and they serve youth that are your age. So there's all, I mean, I would say if I was a teenager in Louisville, that if there's something you want to do, it's probably out there, but you might have to go look for it because it might be 10 miles away or 7 miles away. Yeah.
You're, hold on. Is it my question next or is it your question? You're a graduate of Leadership Louisville and Bingham Fellows Program, and you hold a certificate in a nonprofit executive leadership. Why has continuing your own education mattered to you throughout your career?
Oh, wow. You know, that's so interesting. Well, I will say this. When you get older, sometimes you look back and you say to yourself, I wish I had taken that more seriously. You know, when you're in school, a lot of times you say, oh, I wish I didn't have to go to school today. I hate that class. Why do I have to take that class? But when you get older, you look back and you say, oh, if I could do that again, I wish I had better grades. I wish I had taken advantage of that one teacher a little bit more. So I think when you get older, you start to really appreciate education more than you do when you're younger. Because when you're younger, you have to go. When you're older, you don't have to go. But, and maybe because you don't have to take a test and pass it when you're older, it starts to become a little bit more fun. You know, taking tests isn't fun. Those aren't fun.
No.
But just going to school and learning, if you don't have the test part, sometimes that's fun, you know? So anyway, it's interesting. Yeah, you're never too old to learn is what they say, and that's true.
Definitely. You serve you serve on several boards across the city from is it Birmingham or Birmingham?
Oh, Bernheim. Mm-hmm.
Burnham. Forest to the Louisville Free Public Library Foundation. What draws you to give your time in those days beyond your work at Gheens?
Oh, well, the first time I was asked to join a board, I wasn't sure I wanted to because I knew it was going to mean more work. And that meant I was probably going to be working longer at night or sometimes on the weekend because I still have to get my day job done. But I decided to do it because I thought it would be a way to grow my skills from what I do every day. So being on those boards was a whole new skill set than what I was doing already. So it was another learning opportunity. But what I found out along the way is that I also was meeting people that I normally wouldn't meet with in my line of work because I'm mostly meeting people in the nonprofit world. But here there were other people on those boards that were not in the nonprofit world, that might have been entrepreneurs or working at a bank or, you know, anyway, I just got thrown into the mix with people with a lot of other different kind of work backgrounds than what I was used to seeing. And I liked that variety. I liked meeting new people.
What advice would you give to a teenager who dreams of starting their own nonprofit or community program one day in terms of how to make it fundable and sustainable?
Right. Oh, my gosh. Well, those are really good questions because when people start a nonprofit, normally they start it because they have such a passion for the work and they're very convicted about what they're going to do. And they see a need and they say, I'm going to help solve that need. And that's very, very good. But you do have to go into it understanding about the business side of it. And that you have to be very honest with yourself that that's a big part of keeping your nonprofit going is, first of all, in the nonprofit world, you don't pay taxes on your income. But the Internal Revenue Service has a lot of requirements. And if you're a 501c3, and that's the designation for a nonprofit, the IRS says you have to do all these certain things. And you've got to abide by those rules, and you have to turn your financials in at the end of the year. And you're supposed to have a certain number of board members, and you're supposed to have a certain number of meetings every year, and so on and so forth. So when you go down that road, you need to go in with your eyes wide open that there's a big business part to it besides the mission part. And we've already talked about the fundraising part. No money, no mission is a famous saying in the nonprofit world. So there are some nonprofits that have a revenue stream, and that's good for them. And I'm going to give you an example. Goodwill of Kentucky, they have their thrift stores, and they've turned their thrift stores into really, really nice stores that are very well run. Yeah. When donations come into Goodwill, if they are not purchased in those stores within 21 days, they box all that up and they resell it to another retailer that might be over in another country. Mm-hmm. But they're trying to treat it like a real department store, and they don't want their inventory to be old, and they're constantly moving it and refreshing it. But the money they earn raises almost all they need to pay all their staff. And their business model is most of their staff, the people that work in the stores and the other parts of their business, are people coming out of addiction or coming out of prison or people who have been homeless. And they're putting all those people back to work. So that's their whole mission, is to take lives that have been shattered and get those people back on their feet and make them successful. So the money they raise goes back into the mission of paying all those people. Mm-hmm. That is a very, very successful business model. Most nonprofits don't have that as their business model. Mm-hmm. And it's not always easy to find that kind of a revenue stream, but that's an example of a very successful way to fund your nonprofit. Most nonprofits depend on a lot of other sources of income, donations from individuals, donations from places like the Gheens Foundation, federal grants, money from other nonprofits that are doing a project with them. So I think it's good for everybody to be in love with their mission. I think it's also good to go in with your eyes wide open and decide if you want to do all that, because if you don't, you can go work for a nonprofit and let someone else worry about all that.
Right. Well, Teen Talk News is all about empowering young voices. What message would you like every teenager watching this video to remember about the power of investing in our community?
Well, first of all, you're seeing a good example of it right here. Prominent Youth of America is a wonderful nonprofit, and the kids that you've met along the way here are probably people that will be your friends later in life. And I think if you spend your time doing good things will happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's all the questions that we have for you. Do you have any questions for us?
I would. So what are you all thinking about that might happen to you in the next couple years? You're too far away from starting a career, but what are you thinking about? What do you see in your next couple years? What's your path?
Well, obviously I want to graduate high school, and then after that I want to finish my high school years with continuing honor roll, and I also want to I want to be more involved in my schools, and then after that my plan is to go off to college.
Wonderful. Good.
So after, I want to graduate early, and I want to go to college. I'm not sure what college I want to go to yet, but I want a high standard one. And I'm all about the money. I want money, but I also want to maybe have my own business or something that will people be like, oh, I know her, she sell this, or oh, I seen her on this app or this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I look.
What are some things that you feel like you would want to do, like a hair, nails, what type of things would you want to sell?
I want stuff like what's it called? Thing where they do all of that. Oh, cosmetologist.
Okay,
I want to do that, but as a side job.
Yeah.
Something that I can work on for a little extra money.
Mm-hmm.
But for my real job, I forgot it. I got it, but
what type of field is it? Is it nursing field or?
It's A nurse. I don't know why I keep thinking like I can't think of the name, but something like a nurse. You know, I want to help like people who can't help themselves. So
Yeah. Nursing's a great profession, and AI won't take that away from you.
Yeah.
I mean, we will always need nurses. Yes, and there's a big demand right now and in the future for nurses.
So yeah, that's what I got for me.
Yeah, but those are wonderful aspirations, and I have a feeling both of you will end up in good colleges.
Thank
you.
Thanks for today.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
We're glad to have you.
All right.
And Teen Talk signing out.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Special thanks to our guests for stopping by today. And thank you all so much for watching.